My mother-in-law sabotaged my honeymoon to frame me for cheating, so I exposed her entire web of lies. My mother-in-law looked me dead in the eye and said, "Sarah deserves better than a cheating husband. I have the photos to prove what you did in Vegas." I smiled calmly and replied, "Perfect. I have the security footage to prove what you did." What happened next absolutely destroyed her perfect manipulation game forever. I'm Ryan, 30, and this nuclear explosion happened just 2 months ago, but it feels like a lifetime. My wife, Sarah, 28, and I had been together for 5 years, married for exactly 3 weeks when her mother, Diane, 52, decided to stage the most elaborate sabotage I've ever witnessed. The bomb dropped on a Sunday morning when we were still glowing from our honeymoon high. Sarah and I had just returned from an incredible week in Hawaii, our dream honeymoon that we'd saved for 2 years to afford. We were exhausted but happy, scrolling through our photos over coffee when Sarah's phone rang. It was Diane, and she sounded frantic. "Sarah, honey, you need to come over right now. It's urgent. It's about Ryan." I could hear the panic in Diane's voice through the phone. Sarah looked at me with concern. "What's wrong, Mom? Just come over. Both of you. There's something you need to see." The drive to Diane's house felt ominous. She'd always been manipulative, the type of woman who created drama to stay at the center of attention. But Sarah was her only daughter, and despite all the red flags, Sarah maintained hope that her mother would eventually accept our marriage. We arrived to find Diane sitting at her kitchen table with a manila envelope in front of her. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying, but something felt performative about it. "Sit down," she said solemnly. "Sarah, what I'm about to show you will be difficult, but you deserve to know the truth about the man you married." My stomach dropped. I had no idea what was coming, but I knew it wouldn't be good. Diane opened the envelope and pulled out a stack of photographs. "These were taken last week while you were supposedly on your honeymoon." She spread the photos across the table. They showed a man who looked exactly like me in what appeared to be a hotel room in Las Vegas, kissing and embracing a blonde woman I'd never seen before. The photos were intimate, clearly showing infidelity. Sarah's face went white. "Ryan, what is this?" I stared at the photos in complete shock. The man in the pictures looked exactly like me, same height, same build, same hair. But I had never been to Vegas. I had never seen this woman before in my life. "I don't know what this is, but it's not me," I said firmly. "Sarah, we were in Hawaii together. You know this." Diane's voice was full of fake sympathy. "Sarah, I know this is hard to accept, but I hired a private investigator after I noticed some suspicious behavior from Ryan before the wedding. He followed Ryan to Vegas on Wednesday night." "Wednesday night?" I looked at Sarah. "Sarah, we were snorkeling together on Wednesday. You have the photos on your phone." But Sarah was staring at the pictures, and I could see doubt creeping into her eyes. The resemblance was uncanny. Whoever this man was, he could have been my twin. "The investigator has video footage too," Diane continued, producing a USB drive. "Ryan, I'm sorry, but the evidence is overwhelming." That's when I knew this was a setup. The timing, the photos, the fact that Diane just happened to have hired a private investigator. It was all too convenient. "Sarah," I said carefully, "this is a setup. I was never in Vegas. I was with you every single day of our honeymoon." But Diane was ready with her response. "The investigator said you flew to Vegas for one night while Sarah was sleeping. You told the hotel you were handling a work emergency." Sarah looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Ryan, is there any way you could have left the hotel without me knowing?" The fact that my wife of 3 weeks was even considering this possibility broke something inside me. But I also realized that Diane had planned this perfectly. She'd had months to set this up, and she'd made sure the story would be convincing. "Sarah, I'm going to prove to you that this is a lie," I said quietly. "But I need you to trust me for 24 hours. "Trust you?" Sarah stood up, shaking. "Ryan, there are photos of you with another woman. Photos that can be faked. Photos that conveniently appeared the day after we got back from our honeymoon." Diane was watching this exchange with barely concealed satisfaction. "Sarah, honey, I know you love him, but you can't ignore evidence like this." That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I looked Diane directly in the eye and said, "You're right. Evidence is everything. That's why I'm going to find out exactly how these photos were created and who paid for them." I left Diane's house with Sarah crying behind me, but I had a plan. The photos were too perfect, too convenient, and too well-timed to be real. Someone had gone to enormous trouble to create this elaborate deception, and I was going to find out who. The first thing I did was call my buddy Mike, who worked in digital forensics for the FBI. I sent him the photos and asked him to analyze them for any signs of manipulation. "Ryan, these are definitely altered," he told me within hours. "The face has been digitally superimposed onto another person's body. It's professional work, but there are telltale signs if you know what to look for." But I needed more than just proof the photos were fake. I needed to know who was behind this and why. I started by calling the hotel in Hawaii where Sarah and I had stayed. I requested copies of all the security footage from our week there, particularly focusing on the lobby and elevator areas where our comings and goings would have been recorded. The footage was crystal clear. It showed Sarah and me together every single day, including Wednesday night when I was supposedly in Vegas. We were clearly visible having dinner at the hotel restaurant, walking on the beach, and returning to our room together. But the real breakthrough came when I decided to investigate Diane's story about the private investigator. I called every PI firm in the area, asking if they'd had any clients recently looking into infidelity cases involving someone named Ryan. The third firm I called hit jackpot. "Oh yeah, we remember that case," the receptionist said. "Strange situation. The client paid in cash and was very specific about the timeline and location for the surveillance." "Can you tell me who the client was?" "I'm not supposed to, but since you're the subject of the investigation, I guess it's okay." "It was a woman named Carol Henderson. She said she was concerned about her daughter's marriage." Carol Henderson. I didn't recognize the name, but something about it felt familiar. Then it hit me. Henderson was Diane's maiden name. She'd used a fake name to hire the PI. I called the PI firm back and scheduled a meeting. When I met with the investigator, Tom, he was surprisingly willing to talk. "Look, I'll be honest with you," he said. "That whole job felt wrong from the start. The client was way too specific about what she wanted us to find. She even provided photos of you and said she was sure you'd be at a specific hotel in Vegas on a specific night." "She provided photos of me?" "Yeah, professional headshots. Said they were from your work website." Tom pulled out his file. "Here's the weird part. She paid us to follow you to Vegas, but she also paid extra for us to arrange some kind of photo shoot with a model. Said she wanted irrefutable evidence of your infidelity." My blood ran cold. "She hired you to create fake evidence." "Not fake, exactly. She said she was sure you were cheating and just wanted us to get better photos than we might capture naturally. She hired a model who looked similar to women you'd allegedly been seen with." "And you went along with this?" Tom looked uncomfortable. "Look, we're not supposed to create evidence, but she was paying cash and said it was for divorce proceedings. We figured if you were really cheating, what's the harm in staging better photos?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Diane had paid a private investigator to create fake evidence of my infidelity, complete with a hired model and a body double. "Who was the man in the photos?" I asked. "Male model she hired. Goes by Jake. She said he was about your height and build and could pass for you from a distance." Tom gave me Jake's contact information. When I called him, he was surprisingly forthcoming. "Oh man, that job was weird," Jake said. "The lady who hired me was super specific about everything. She had me wear clothes that looked like yours, style my hair like yours, even practice copying your mannerisms from videos she showed me." "Videos of me?" "Yeah, she had hours of footage of you. Said she was your mother-in-law and wanted to surprise you with a tribute video or something. But then she had me pose with this actress in ways that looked intimate. And you didn't think that was strange?" "I mean, yeah, but she was paying really well. She said it was for some kind of art project about marriage and fidelity. I didn't know it was going to be used to frame you for cheating." I now had proof that Diane had orchestrated the entire thing, but I needed to understand why she'd gone to such elaborate lengths. The answer came from an unexpected source. Sarah's Aunt Linda, Diane's sister, called me 2 days later. "Ryan, I need to talk to you," she said. "I heard about what happened, and I can't stay quiet anymore." Linda told me something that changed everything. "Diane has been planning this for months. She never wanted Sarah to marry you, but she knew Sarah wouldn't listen to her objections. So she decided to create a situation where Sarah would have to choose between you and the evidence. But why go to such lengths? Because Diane can't stand not being the center of Sarah's life. She's been manipulating Sarah since she was a child, creating crises and drama to keep Sarah dependent on her. Your marriage threatened that control." Linda had more shocking information. "This isn't the first time Diane has done something like this. She did the same thing to Sarah's first serious boyfriend 5 years ago. She planted evidence that he was stealing from her and convinced Sarah to break up with him. And Sarah never found out. Diane is very good at covering her tracks. But I have proof of this one because she asked me to help her, and I stupidly agreed. I still have the receipts and communications. Linda agreed to help me expose Diane's scheme. But first, I had to convince Sarah to hear me out. I called Sarah and asked her to meet me at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. She agreed, but she was cold and distant. "Sarah, I need you to look at something," I said, pulling out my laptop. "This is security footage from our hotel in Hawaii." I showed her the footage from Wednesday night, the night I was supposedly in Vegas. There we were, clear as day, having dinner together, walking on the beach, returning to our room. "This could be from any night," Sarah said, but I could see doubt creeping in. "Look at the timestamp. And look at this." I showed her photos from her own phone, taken on Wednesday night, with timestamps that matched the security footage. Then I showed her Mike's analysis of the photos. These images were digitally manipulated. The face was superimposed onto another person's body. Sarah stared at the evidence, and I could see her world shifting. "But why would Mom do this?" "Because she never wanted us to get married, and she knew you wouldn't listen to her objections. So she created a situation where you'd have to choose between me and what looked like irrefutable evidence." I told her about my conversation with the PI, with Jake, and with Linda. By the end, Sarah was crying. "I can't believe she would do this," she whispered. "My own mother tried to destroy my marriage." "Sarah, there's more. Linda says this isn't the first time." I told her about her previous boyfriend, and Sarah's face went pale. "Oh my God, Kevin." She told me he was stealing from her, and I believed her. I ended a 2-year relationship because of her lies. The confrontation with Diane happened the next day. Sarah and I arrived at her house with all the evidence. The security footage, the digital analysis, the statements from the PI and the model, and Linda's testimony about the previous boyfriend. Diane tried to maintain her innocent act at first. "Sarah, honey, I was just trying to protect you." "Protect me from what, Mom?" "From being happy. From making a mistake. From marrying someone who would hurt you." Sarah slammed the laptop down on the table. "The only person who hurt me was you. You hired actors to create fake evidence. You manipulated a private investigator. You tried to destroy my marriage with lies." Diane's facade finally cracked. "You don't understand. You were pulling away from me. You were choosing him over family. He is my family now. He's my husband. He's nobody. He's a construction worker who will never be able to give you the life you deserve." And there it was, the real reason. Diane couldn't stand that Sarah had chosen someone she considered beneath their family status. "Mom, you're sick," Sarah said quietly. "You've been manipulating me my entire life, and I was too blind to see it." Diane made one last desperate attempt. "Sarah, even if the photos were enhanced, the core truth remains. Men like Ryan always cheat. I was just showing you what would inevitably happen." That's when I spoke up. "Diane, you spent thousands of dollars and months of planning to create fake evidence because you couldn't find any real evidence. That should tell you something about who I really am." The aftermath was swift and devastating for Diane. Update 1. 2 weeks later. Sarah went no contact with her mother immediately. She changed her phone number, blocked Diane on social media, and refused all attempts at communication. The story spread through their social circle quickly. Linda, feeling guilty about her past complicity, told several family members about Diane's history of manipulation. The family was divided. Some were horrified by Diane's behavior. Others thought Sarah was overreacting. But the most satisfying consequence came from an unexpected source. The PI firm, after learning the full scope of what Diane had done, reported her to the authorities for fraud and filing false reports. "What she did was criminal," Tom told me. "She paid us to create fake evidence for what she claimed were divorce proceedings. That's fraud, and it's a felony." Update 2. 1 month later. Diane was arrested and charged with fraud, criminal conspiracy, and filing false reports. The local news picked up the story. Woman arrested for elaborate scheme to frame son-in-law. The story went viral on social media, with people sharing their own stories of toxic in-laws and family manipulation. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive of Sarah and me. Diane's friends and social circle were horrified. Several people came forward with their own stories of Diane's manipulative behavior over the years. It turned out she had a long history of creating drama, and spreading lies about people she didn't like. Her bridge club asked her to leave. Her church quietly suggested she find a new congregation. Her book club disbanded rather than deal with the drama. Update 3. 2 months later, Diane pled guilty to reduced charges to avoid a trial. She received 2 years probation, community service, and was ordered to pay restitution for the money she'd cost us in legal fees and the emotional distress she'd caused. But the real justice was the complete destruction of her social standing. The woman who had spent years carefully curating her image as a devoted mother and pillar of the community was exposed as a manipulative liar who had tried to destroy her own daughter's marriage. Sarah started therapy to deal with the realization that her mother had been manipulating her for years. "I keep thinking about all the times she protected me from people," Sarah told me. "How many relationships did she sabotage? How many opportunities did I miss because of her lies?" The most shocking revelation came when Sarah's high school guidance counselor reached out after hearing about the story. "I always wondered why Sarah never applied to that scholarship program," she said. "Diane told me Sarah wasn't interested, but the applications were never submitted." It turned out Diane had been intercepting Sarah's mail and sabotaging opportunities for years: college scholarships, job interviews, even social invitations. She had systematically isolated Sarah to maintain control over her life. Final update: 3 months later. Sarah and I are stronger than ever. The experience taught us both valuable lessons about trust, family, and the importance of standing up to manipulation. We've started a small support group for people who have dealt with toxic family members. It's amazing how many people have similar stories of parents, siblings, or in-laws who create elaborate schemes to control their loved ones. Diane made one final attempt to contact Sarah through a lawyer, claiming she was dying and wanted to reconcile. The lawyer withdrew from the case when we provided evidence that Diane had used the same dying mother's story to manipulate Sarah multiple times over the years. Sarah's response was perfect. "If she's really dying, she can die knowing that her lies destroyed our relationship forever." I never did find out how much money Diane spent on her elaborate scheme: the PI fees, the model fees, the photo manipulation, the fake documents. But whatever it cost her, it was worth every penny to expose her true character. The irony is that Diane got exactly what she feared most. She was so afraid of losing Sarah to our marriage that she guaranteed losing Sarah forever with her lies. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting toxic people destroy themselves with their own schemes. Diane wanted to frame me as a cheater and destroy my marriage. Instead, she exposed herself as a liar and destroyed her relationship with her daughter. We're planning to renew our vows next year, a real celebration with people who actually love and support us. Diane won't be invited, but her absence will make the day even more perfect. The woman who tried to sabotage our honeymoon ended up giving us the greatest gift of all: complete freedom from her manipulation forever. Please subscribe to the channel. You won't regret it.